Now here's an oddity that was sent to me by my friend Tony in the Philippines. This one comes from the files of Omerfung. Now I know what you're thinking. Whoops, sorry, I thought this was a magic trick. You know, pull the string and the key goes poof, disappears or something like that. Well, sadly, that isn't the case. As you can see, this is a balloon that floated away. It was sent to me with no explanation other than it came from a store. But look closely. Can you see how the top portion of the key remains lodged inside the nozzle of the balloon? I think this thing is pretty spooky. It looks like the key was put inside the balloon and then the balloon was inflated. Otherwise, how could the key possibly get into the balloon without it being inflated? And you would be right. There is a secret, but I need your help to uncover it. The reason I couldn't pull it out is because I was pulling on the string rather than the key itself. And once I realized this, all I had to do was reach in and grab hold of the key. And here it is, an old-fashioned brass key. But here's another surprise. This video has almost 4 million views, which means somebody out there knows more about this. In fact, I received quite a few comments with people sharing their thoughts. So let's take a look. I don't believe this is a skeleton key. I think each one of these long thin slots is for a different type of lock. In fact, when I pulled the string, nothing happened at all because it appears the key had already been removed. It looked a bit like a DVD case, but it wasn't. It was empty. But when I opened it, it made a noise. Inside this box is a small plastic device with a hole cut out of it. My guess is that this was some sort of toy or gadget that you could buy from a store in the Philippines. All I know is that this is definitely related to this balloon and the key that was inside it. Here's a close-up of the device. As you can see, it has a button on it and when I pressed it, it made the noise. Maybe someone bought this as a novelty gift and then later regretted it. Perhaps they were trying to sell it online. Who knows? And do you know what it sounds like? That's right, it sounds like a duck. This is what the device looks like. That's because the red buttons could be used to turn the feature on or off. First, you would need a rubber duck, a squeaker, some clear sticky tape and a balloon. Start by putting the squeaker inside the balloon, then place the rubber duck over the opening of the balloon, secure it with the sticky tape and start inflating the balloon. Of course, this is just a theory. I have no way of knowing for sure. By the way, if you want to learn more about how ducks work, I've done a few videos on that topic. Check out the links in the description. At first I thought it was coming from the fan, but I turned the fan off and the sound continued. Well, I didn't realize it at the time, but after looking around, I eventually spotted something behind my bookcase. Well, it appears that when the balloon is squeezed, it triggers the button inside the box, making the box sound like a duck. So it's like a balloon that quacks when you squeeze it. After all, balloons aren't supposed to make noises. And in fact, this balloon didn't make any other noises until I let the air out. Because when I squeezed it, it sounded like a duck. Could it be? Yes, it's the balloon. It's fallen down and landed behind my bookcase. So the way it works is simple. When you place it inside the box, pressing the button makes the duck noise. But it gets better, because when you turn the box upside down, the duck noise comes out of the hole in the box, making it sound like the box itself is making the noise. In fact, most of the time it didn't make any noise at all. Well, that's certainly one possibility. But here's another. Could this balloon be rigged to quack when you squeeze it? It was only after I pushed the red buttons on the side of the balloon that it started making noise. So the question is, how does the key get out? And I have no idea. The only clue we have is a small handwritten note which says simply, "Do not pull." So let's follow that advice. Let's not pull. Instead, I'm going to try pushing. Then you will be able to extract the key. Well, that sounds easy enough, but I can't believe that's the solution. Why would someone put a key inside a balloon and then send it to me? By the way, if you want to see the uncensored version of this, it's available on another platform. I mean, I get that it might be a magic trick, but why send it to me? However, this balloon has something different inside it, something heavier than air, hence why it isn't floating away. So I tried this, but unfortunately it just popped. And here's the funny thing, once the balloon pops, the key doesn't come out. In fact, it's so heavy it's actually sinking towards the floor. But wait, I hear you cry. Surely there's some sort of trick to this. Take a close look at the balloon and see if you can find anything unusual about it. What do you see? Do you see it? How about now? Are you seeing it yet? Well, it's these two little red dots that are on either side of the nozzle. Those two little red dots are actually push buttons, and floated up to the ceiling where it proceeded to land on top of my cupboard. So what's inside the balloon? Well, we'll soon find out because to retrieve the balloon, I got on my knees and looked inside the cupboard. And this is what I found. You see, balloons normally float away because they have helium or some other light gas inside them, which makes them lighter than air. I didn't realize this at first, but when I pushed those two little red buttons, the balloon suddenly became buoyant again. It looks like there was a key inside the balloon. But here's a question. Where did the key go after it left the balloon? And here's the weird part. When I went over to investigate, I could have sworn I heard the balloon squeak, but I could have been mistaken. Oh, well, it seems this balloon is full of surprises. How to open this balloon? Simple. Get a sharp needle or pin, stick it in the balloon and pop it open. Another person said, just poke a few holes in the balloon with a pin and deflate the balloon. Then you can easily retrieve the key. In fact, I ended up with a bunch of tiny balloon pieces stuck inside the nozzle and I had to use a pair of tweezers to remove them. Anyway, as I was rummaging around in my cupboard, I noticed this strange box. So I took the box downstairs, and this is where I discovered the noise was coming from. And if you cut the front off, this is what you'll find. Anyway, I haven't been able to find anything else online. What is also interesting is that this hole cut out of the front aligns perfectly with the hole in the box. Now, how is this related to the balloon? But here's the thing. The balloon didn't always quack when I squeezed it. Could this be a coincidence? Is it possible that just by chance, pressing the buttons on the balloon happens to trigger the button inside the box, making it quack? If so, it would explain why it didn't work at first, but then worked after I pressed the red buttons. But here's what I can tell you. If you wanted to rig a balloon to quack when you squeeze it, you could do it like this. When you squeeze the balloon, the rubber duck squeezes the squeaker, making it sound like a duck, anyway. Thanks for watching. Remember to give the video a thumbs up and stay tuned for more fun experiments.